Good quality products are hard to find these days. Why not try some country caviar made of the finest, freshest peanuts available? Hardy Farms peanuts are grown, cleaned, processed, and packaged in Hawkinsville, Georgia. Try some of the most popular peanuts in the Southeast by stopping at your local grocer or one of these roadside stands to pick up your bags of Hardy Farms peanuts.
You can eat them anytime. They have everything you want in a peanut.
They're boiled, they're warm, you bite into them, the juices squirt out in your mouth. Nothing better.
It's another beautiful day here in Pulaski County. I'm UGA Extension Agent Mark Freeman, and on this episode of Ag Update, we'll be looking at some wheat, some planting corn, peanuts, cotton, and a little bit on turf grass fertilization, and we'll learn how to calibrate our spreaders. The wheat crop's still looking pretty good this year from a disease standpoint. We still have some powdery mildew out there. I've seen some fields that were pretty heavily infested with powdery mildew that got a fungicide treatment that knocked it back pretty good. Some of the tan spot we were seeing a few weeks ago, I haven't seen a whole lot more of that. One thing I am seeing is a little bit of loose smut. Loose smut's a seed disease. So plants that are infected this year with loose smut actually were infected last year as they were seeds in the seed head. There's nothing you can do to control it for this year, and it's not going to affect your yields this year. But for next year, if you're saving your seed to replant it next year, you're going to want to get a fungicide seed treatment on that. That loose smut gets into the seed this year, overwinters in the seed, and next year will multiply and you'll have more loose smut than you did this year. We're still looking and scouting for any kind of rusts or any other diseases. My counterparts over in Dooley County have found some stagnospora in some fields. Stagnospora is the fungus that causes leaf and gloom blotch. We haven't seen that in Pulaski County yet, but we're still actively scouting our fields. Another thing I'm seeing here is some damage from an insect called a cereal leaf beetle. And the cereal leaf beetles will actually scrape these streaks into the leaves as they feed on it. And that's the extent of the injury, is they're just reducing photosynthesis. But when you reduce photosynthesis in these top leaves, you're taking a lot of energy away from the grain heads here. I haven't seen any really high populations. The economic threshold for these is 1 insect per every 4 stems. Again, I haven't seen populations that high, but it's something you really want to look out for. And if populations get high enough, we could actually use an insecticide on these to control them. I'm also seeing just a little bit of frost injury. We had a frost last week. The injury from frost on wheat doesn't show up till about a week after. So this is one of the first fields I've seen with injury, but you can really see the grain head has been malformed and it's just misshapen. And we're going to lose a little bit of yield here. I'm not sure what the overall yield impact is going to be of the frost, but we're going to see just a little bit of injury throughout the county.
Good quality products are hard to find these days. Why not try some country caviar made of the finest, freshest peanuts available? Hardy Farms peanuts are grown, cleaned, processed, and packaged in Hawkinsville, Georgia. Try some of the most popular peanuts in the Southeast by stopping at your local grocer or one of these roadside stands to pick up your bags of Hardy Farms peanuts.
You can eat them anytime. They have everything you want in a peanut.
They're boiled, they're warm, you bite into them, the juices squirt out in your mouth. Nothing better.
Now that we're into late April, it's time to start thinking about planting our peanuts. This year, Georgia's 06G crop in the cold germination test actually didn't perform very well. So UGA Extension is recommending to wait till 4-inch soil temperatures reach 68 degrees and are on the uptrend. Right now at April 21st, our soil temperatures are right around 66.5, so we need to wait a little bit longer to get those going. If you haven't started your burn down, a couple recommendations we could go with are glyphosate or paraquat, and we could mix that with either 2,4-D to get some primrose control and some wild radish control, Or we could go ahead and get a residual in there and go with either Dual, Warrant, or Valor. Now if you go with the Valor option, we have a 30-day plant back restriction on that. So be careful and don't plant too early so we can not get any crop injury. And now since we're talking about peanuts, that means cotton planting is going to be right around the corner. So if you haven't got your cotton burn down ready to go, the Cotton Production Guide has a great table on cotton burn down options. It's got every chemical's plant back restriction, so you could be extra careful not to get any crop injury. And when we're talking about planting cotton, we also have to worry about thrips control. Thrips are little microscopic bugs that injure young cotton plants early in the season. Cotton that's planted in late April and early May gets particularly bad thrips injury. The thrips injury is magnified when cotton plants are small and not growing very rapidly. Usually with a lot of rain, our cotton plants will slow their growth down, so we won't get much fast growth from the cotton plants. So the thrips injury hits really hard then. So what we need to think about is doing a commercial seed treatment with either a thiamethoxone or an imidacloprid seed treatment. And those seed treatments will usually give you about 3 weeks of control post-planting. So if we're still into that early stage of cotton development and you're getting some pretty bad thrips injury, you can go with a foliar spray at the 1 leaf stage. This is just going to be extra protection against the thrips early season. Let that cotton grow. And now here's the second look at this week's Pest of the Week.
Quality products are hard to find these days. Why not try some country caviar made of the finest, freshest peanuts available? Hardy Farms peanuts are grown, cleaned, processed, and packaged in Hawkinsville, Georgia. Try some of the most popular peanuts in the Southeast by stopping at your local grocer or one of these roadside stands to pick up your bags of Hardy Farms peanuts.
You can eat them anytime. They have everything you want in a peanut.
They're boiled, they're warm, you bite into them, the juices squirt out in your mouth. Nothing better.
Now that our grass is starting to green up, I've been getting calls about dead spots in people's lawns. Some of these dead spots have been winter kill from cold weather, but some of them have been diseases that have been showing up. Now, one way to find out if you have a disease is to bring it to the UGA Extension office and we can send it to the lab for a disease analysis. For a homeowner, that costs $10. Now, what you want to do is, this isn't actually a diseased area, but it's a good area to show what I'm talking about. If this was some dead grass, what we would want to do is take a sample from where the grass is dead to where the grass is not dead. So right there on that line is a good sampling area. What we want to do is take a spade and just dig down. We want to get all the roots and all the top growth from there. So we take our little sample out, we put it in a Ziploc bag, and that's it. Bring it to the extension office just like that, and we can send it off to the lab. Now that our grass is starting to green up, it's time to fertilize. Now, a typical centipede lawn needs between 1 and 2 pounds of nitrogen per 1,000 square foot annually, but to get the right amount of nutrients required for your lawn, you need to calibrate your spreader. The most common fertilizer used is something called a 10-10-10. That means that the fertilizer formulation is 10% nitrogen, 10% phosphorus, and 10% potassium. So if only 10% of that fertilizer is nitrogen, then we need 20 pounds of that fertilizer to get the required 2 pounds of nitrogen. Now, the first thing that we need to do is measure the spread that our fertilizer spreader is throwing our fertilizer. Second, we need to find 1,000 square foot so we can calibrate it. And I like to use cat litter or oil dry to calibrate it because the cat litter and oil dry have the same consistency as a fertilizer. So what we'll do is measure the spread first. The spread of this spreader was 10 foot, which makes our math pretty easy. Now we have to count off 100 foot, and we'll push our spreader that distance. So 10 foot wide by 100 foot long equals 1,000 square foot. So we'll measure out our 20 pounds of oil dry onto the scale. We'll put that into our spreader, and we'll calibrate the spreader so that 20 pounds of the cat litter is gone by the time we reach 100 feet. We're using 10-10-10 here as an example just to make our math a little bit easier, but fertilizer comes in many different formulations. We can get 30-00, which would be 30% nitrogen, 0 phosphorus, 0 potassium. You get 15-0-15, which is 15% nitrogen, 0% phosphorus, and 15% potassium. It all just depends on what your soil test recommendation came back as to what you need in that formulation. But remember that the three numbers still all mean the same thing. The first one is percent nitrogen, the second one is percent phosphorus, and the third one is percent potash or phosphorus or potassium.
Good quality products are hard to find these days. Why not try some country caviar made of the finest, freshest peanuts available? Hardy Farms peanuts are grown, cleaned, processed, and packaged in Hawkinsville, Georgia. Try some of the most popular peanuts in the Southeast by stopping at your local grocer or one of these roadside stands to pick up your bags of Hardy Farms peanuts.
You can eat them anytime. They have everything you want in a peanut.
They're boiled, they're warm, you bite into them, the juices squirt out in your mouth. Nothing better.
Well, I hope you could guess this week's pest of the week was dandelions. Dandelions are a perennial broadleaf weed that germinate from seeds and also from underground root systems. Since they're a perennial plant, they're a little bit harder to kill than our annuals, but a good shot of 2,4-D in the early spring should give excellent control. Now you got to be careful with 2,4-D. Centipede lawns can be injured by it. So be timely and be early and control those dandelions early in the spring, and you shouldn't have a problem after that.
Good quality products are hard to find these days. Why not try some country caviar made of the finest, freshest peanuts available? Hardy Farms peanuts are grown, cleaned, processed, and packaged in Hawkinsville, Georgia. Try some of the most popular peanuts in the Southeast by stopping at your local grocer or one of these roadside stands to pick up your bags of Hardy Farms peanuts.
You can eat them anytime. They have everything you want in a peanut.
They're boiled, they're warm, you bite into them, the juices squirt out in your mouth. Nothing better.
All right, Mark, for today's Q&A session, we'll start off with a question from Kristen. Last year I had terrible problems with stink bugs on my tomatoes. What can I do about that?
Well, one thing you can do about that is to apply an insecticide. Any insecticide with a pyrethroid, one such as called bifenthrin, should have pretty decent control on stink bugs in your tomatoes. And there's a 1-day restriction on harvest of those, so don't harvest those within 24 hours after applying bifenthrin.
From Julie, we have a simple but common question. How do I get rid of ants?
Well, there's 3 ways that you can get rid of ants. One is a mound drench, the second is a granular insecticide application, and the third is a bait. So the mound drench and the granular applications are insecticides like bifenthrin or 7-Dust, and with the mound drench they're mixed with water and drenched directly onto the mound, and granulars are spread out in a spreader and watered in. The baits are usually an Amdro product, and the baits are a little slower to have an impact on ant populations, but they also work well. The baits are usually done in the spring and fall when ants are out foraging for foods. Thanks for watching another episode of Ag Update. I'm UGA Extension Agent Mark Freeman. be sure to tune in next time for the latest in Middle Georgia agriculture. And don't forget, Saturday, May 3rd is the opening day for the Hawkinsville River Market Farmers Market. For vendor information, please visit hawkinsvillerivermarket.com or call Karen Bailey at 478-783-9294.
Good quality products are hard to find these days. Why not try some country caviar made of the finest, freshest peanuts available? Hardy Farms peanuts are grown, cleaned, processed, and packaged in Hawkinsville, Georgia. Try some of the most popular peanuts in the Southeast by stopping at your local grocer or one of these roadside stands to pick up your bags of Hardy Farms peanuts.
You can eat them anytime. They have everything you want in a peanut.
They're boiled, they're warm, you bite into them, the juices squirt out in your mouth. Nothing better.